Welcome back. So, we are up to Anaheim in my continuing look at teams that failed to make the playoffs in 2025. The good news being that Anaheim a little later in the playlist than normal. They are higher up in the standings. They had a not too bad season this year, comparatively speaking, with previous seasons. In fact, it was their best season since 2018-2019, even the same record and everything. Now, they're drafting 10th. We know this from the draft lottery, which took place yesterday. That's why I didn't do this video yesterday, because I was like, I'll wait till after the draft lottery. And they also have 2 third-round draft picks and 2 fifth-round draft picks in this year's draft. But Anaheim's not about draft picks anymore. Pat Verbeek making it clear that he intends to see this team, he wants to see this team make the playoffs in 2026. And that is why the 2 rumored coaches that are out there to take over for Greg Cronin, who was let go after the season finished, Joel Quenneville and Jay Woodcroft are the 2 names that seem to be the most likely. A lot of discussion on either coach, but for Pat Verbeek, he wants playoffs, and that usually means when a GM says that, you're looking for somebody with a track record, somebody who's been a coach in the NHL before, and Quenneville and Woodcroft would meet that criteria. And we'll see what happens. The expectation is that if it's going to be Quenneville, it should be soon. In fact, it's close enough that before I started this video, I double-checked all the social media feeds to make sure that a decision hasn't been made yet, and that there was no news today about how much closer we are to seeing who the next coach is going to be for the Anaheim Ducks. Now, this team's on their way up. A lot of good young players we're going to be talking about. Also, they have $38.63 million in cap space July the 1st. However, a lot of that cap space is going to get eaten up by restricted free agents. Now, looking at their pending unrestricted free agents, notables are Robbie Fabry, a player I like. I just wish he could stay healthy. McGinn and Shillington. So I would guess all 3 of them probably go to market. Restricted free agents, Lundestrom, probably a bridge deal for Lundestrom, I would think. McTavish, they're going to want to lock McTavish down. They're going to want a long-term extension on McTavish because the second half of the season we started to see the pucks going his way, and at some point he's going to be a point-per-game player. You want him signed to a contract before we get there. Leeson, also a restricted free agent, probably gets a bridge deal. Hellison, probably a bridge deal. And Dostal is the other one that could eat up a lot of money. Dostal looked fantastic this season at points. Dropped off a bit too there in the second half of the season, but still, Dostal's numbers are really good. He's likely to be their starter for some time to come. So I would think, 5-year deal for Dostal? Maybe 4? I don't think a 1 or 2 year deal for Dostal works, but maybe you look at a 4-year deal, something like that. And then looking next season, 2026, they have some big name restricted free agents next year, and even though the salary cap's going to go up a lot, you have to keep this in mind. So you've got Zegras, and Zegras we'll talk about again. Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, obviously Gauthier, Carlson, long-term players. Minchukov, Zellweger. Zellweger had a really strong season. I really like Minchukov as well. You got Jackson Lacombe, another restricted free agent. So next summer could be a very expensive one for the Anaheim Ducks when you're looking at free agents. And then Trouba and Gudas will be unrestricted free agents next summer. So in the event that the Anaheim Ducks don't quite end up where they want to be next year, it's possible that Trouba or Gudas or both could be gone as rentals. Although I will say that when they acquired Trouba, it didn't sound like there was any intention of flipping him later. They didn't during the regular season. I don't think they do during the offseason either. So, looking at the time period now where they've been out of the playoffs, going from 2019 until this year, 2025, 35, 37, and 10 record in 2018-2019, as well as this season. So 80 points there, and in between some very tough seasons. 2019-2020, a 29, 33, and 7 record, 67 points. 2020, 2021, the 56-game schedule within the division, 17, 30, and 9 record, 43 points. 2021, 2022, 31, 37, and 14 record for 76 points, and it looked like they were pulling themselves out of this rebuild, but they went down the year after. 2022, 2023, a record of 23, 47, and 12, 58 points. 2023, 2024, 27, 50, and 5 record, 59 points. So a 1-point improvement between 2023 and 2024, but 21 point improvement this year. So if they can improve by another 10 to 15 points next year, yeah, they're going to be in the mix. And there's good reason to think that they'll be there. A lot of good young players. Their scoring leader this year was Troy Terry, 77 games, 21 goals, 34 assists, 55 points. I would think those numbers are going to get better next year because the team around Terry is going to get better. McTavish, 76 games, 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 points. So the scoring is there. Good young team. Vetrano, 81 games, 21 goals, 24 assists, 45 points. Vetrano didn't have the same season that he had the year before, but we knew that was a career year. He's on a team-friendly contract. And then you get into, in red here, these are the players that I think you're building around, or you make a decision on whether or not these are the guys you're building around. And that Zegras is in this portion of the video, too. So Karlsson, 76 games, 20 goals, 25 assists, 45 points. Leo Karlsson, by the end of the season, looked fantastic. And I thought his really strong second half should lead towards an excellent following season. So 2025-2026 should be a really good year for him. I think it's important for Pat Verbeek to sit down, especially with Karlsson. I would think Karlsson and Lacombe might be the most important ones to sit down with in July and work out an extension, because once next season starts, they could become a lot more expensive to keep around. Cutter Gauthier, 82 games, 20 goals, 24 assists, 44 points. Another player that they're building around. Lacombe, 75 games, 14 goals, 29 assists, 43 points. He is, I believe, 24 years of age, which is older than the others on the board here. But as a defenseman, he's developed a little bit later, and he showed quite the offensive side of his game. Trevor Zegras, 57 games, 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points. With Zegras, he's likely going to miss time. His numbers are probably not going to be what you might expect of a star player. And there's still that debate about what the peak is going to be for Zegras in terms of points production. Will he be better than a point per game player? Will he not? What's going to happen there? Zellweger, 62 games, 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 points. Menchukov, 68 games, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points. A lot of good young players here. This is one of those teams in the NHL that may at some point sacrifice one of those young players in a trade in order to get some veteran leadership in there. That may happen this coming season if Verbeek's really serious about being aggressive towards playoffs. John Gibson, 11-11-2 record, 911 save percentage, and his contract at $6.4 million until 2027 becomes a little more palatable with the salary cap going up. But it will be interesting to see what Dostal gets, because that $6.4 million gets added to whatever Dostal gets. So if he gets, say, a $5 million cap hit for Dostal, that means your goaltending would be costing you $11.4 million in cap space. Dostal, 23-23-7, 903 save percentage. Once again, his numbers dropped in the second half of the season, but I have total faith in Dostal. I think he's an excellent goaltender. There's still some upcoming young players here, too. Beckett Seneca, of course, playing in the AHL this year, 56 games, 36 goals, 50 assists, 86 points. At the time he was drafted, obviously a shock for everybody, including Seneca himself, but now he's seen as one of the top young prospects, not yet in the National Hockey League, and he will get every opportunity, I would think, to make the team out of camp this coming fall. And then on the blue line, you've still got Tristan Luneau, played 6 games with Anaheim, but in the AHL, 59 games, 9 goals, 43 assists, 52 points. And Stian Solberg, 10 games in the AHL, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Also a defenseman and seen as an excellent young prospect. So those are 2 more good young defensemen on top of all the excellent young defensemen they already have. At some point, something has to give, you would think. But it's an embarrassment of riches for a team that has been rebuilding for a while, and now they want out of that rebuild. They want to be a good team starting next year. One thing I wanted to mention, too, is that obviously the team building the entertainment district around the arena and making renovations to the arena, taking this seriously. And I'm glad, because there have been times over the last few years, I would say, where I've seen people saying, oh, Anaheim isn't going to work, and I don't know why they have a team in Anaheim, and look at the building's empty. And, I honestly think there's a really good fan base there, and I say it from having been down there too. And I will say that in my dealings with the Anaheim Ducks and people within the organization, just great people. I could not stand the Anaheim Ducks back when the channel started in 2016. And gosh darn it, the team has done some form of outreach to me, and it's worked. It's absolutely worked. It has. So yeah, the Anaheim Ducks, a team that I don't find myself hating on anymore, and an organization that I know is run pretty well. I know there's going to be a lot of people who aren't happy if Joel Quenneville gets that coaching job, but if the Ducks get back to the playoffs, Pat Verbeek will stand there and say, "This was worth it. We got back to the playoffs." I personally would prefer Woodcroft because at the time the Oilers fired him, and I know they turned it around under Knobloch. I didn't think Woodcroft was necessarily the problem in Edmonton, and I think Woodcroft's a good coach, and I think he'd be a good hire if the Ducks went in that direction. So we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Will the Ducks make that push into a playoff spot next year, or are they still going to be too far away? And how much of this cap space gets eaten up by UFAs, and how much do you save because next year you're going to have a bunch of UFAs to deal with as well? So that's where things get kind of interesting for me with the Ducks. When you draft all these really good young players, then you got to pay them coming out of their entry level contracts, which is very different than it was years back. You used to have your 3-year entry level deal, then you'd have your bridge contract of 2 years, usually at a mild raise over the entry level contract, and then you'd get paid after those first 5 years. Now it's entry level contract, and if you've proven yourself, then you get your 8-year deal. And it just makes things a little more expensive a little sooner, and it adds to that danger that some of those contracts could become anchors later. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.